Gustafson Barlette with the Times Union and timesunion.com. And welcome to 20 Things Plus, where we catch up with somebody previously featured on the Times Union's 20 Things You Don't Know About Me. Today we are joined by Harry Tutunjian. Harry is the former mayor of Troy. He served 2 terms. And then he was also president of the city council. Hi, Harry.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
So, as you know, we've been doing 20 Things for a while. You were one of the very first people I ever invited on, so I'm excited that you're here with us today. And we are going to start by catching up on a couple of your original things, and then we'll learn a few new things about you as well.
Sure.
So, in your original 20 Things, you talked about Joe Bruno and your relationship with him. Now, Joe was back in the news earlier this year because he died in October, and I know you two were pretty close. So talk to us a little bit about your relationship with Senator Bruno.
Well, when I had an auto body shop before I got in elected office, I used to fix Senator Bruno's car. So that's kind of where I kind of met him through that. But even before that, I met him at a luncheon that I had won. There was a fundraiser in Brunswick for the Republican Party, and I went to that fundraiser as a young businessman, and we had a silent auction, and one of the things up for bid was lunch with Senator Bruno. So at the time, he had just become Senate Majority Leader. And I said, wow, here's a chance to have lunch with the second most powerful person in New York State, who's a local guy. So I bid on it. It was like $185, and I won the bid. So a few months later, actually it was a Valentine's Day, we met at Jack's Oyster House for a lunch. My brother, Senator Bruno, and I, and we sat there in one of the booths, and he ordered up all kinds of food, oysters, and we just chatted about Troy, the town of Brunswick, New York State, development, business, and just free flow conversation. And at that time, I told him that I was considered running for office. And right from that minute on, he encouraged me to do that when I was ready to do so. And a few years later, I took the plunge.
And then did he become a mentor to you when you were running for office?
Well, sure. I was a younger guy then, and I looked up to him as a very powerful guy, charismatic, charming, And so he was a mentor, certainly. And when I got elected to the city council, he was important in helping me win. He, posed for a photo with me for my mailer, which I thought was so cool at the time, And then, when I decided to run for mayor, I got to say he wasn't so keen on that yet. I think he was kind of nervous that I was too young because I was like 35, 36 when I ran for mayor. But, I did get the nomination. I ran. He was supportful throughout the campaign, but I don't think he thought I was going to win. And I'm pretty sure he didn't think I was going to win because they had done polling, and they would bring me into the office and say, you got to work harder and you're doing this wrong. And on election night in 2003, we were at the election night party, and Senator Bruno wasn't there, and the numbers started coming in that I was winning, and I was next to one of his aides who called him up and said, you better get over here, he's going to win. So I love Senator Bruno, and I don't want to tell any bad stories about it, but I was just, one of those things that I'll never forget that, as much as he wanted me to win, I don't think he was certain I was going to win, because at the time the numbers were wrong, and as we see now, the numbers can be wrong.
I was going to say, we see surprises all the time in elections. So, and do you remember, did he roll up in the car, one of the cars that you had fixed when he came to the count that night?
No, I didn't meet him outside, but he was probably driving one of his state vehicles at the time. I fixed his wife's car. His late wife had an old AMC Concorde, if you remember those things, like a gremlin type vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
The door was broken and we couldn't find a part for it. I located one in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and got it shipped to us and fixed it and saved her the car, because otherwise the door was going to fall off. And he hated that car, but she loved it, and he wanted to fix it up for her. So that was one of the cars that I fixed for them. But yeah, a lot of great memories there with Senator Bruno.
That's so fun. Now, I know you went to Jack's Oyster House with him, and it wasn't Kay's Pizza, but the next one we're going to talk about is Kay's Pizza, because I'm a Rensselaer County girl. You're a Rensselaer County guy. I couldn't believe in your original 20 Things that you had never been to Kay's. But that's changed, right?
Yeah, I always heard about Kay's, and as a kid, I thought I might have gone there. But when I finally did end up going, I said I've never been here before. I could just tell that I'd never been here before. So it was the owners were there, and they were happy that they contacted me after the first 20 Things ran and said, you got to get over here. So I said, I do have to do that. And I went with my wife, and we had a great pizza and took in the scenery before they closed in 2019, closed for the season.
And what did you think? They've got the tipped floors, and the pizza comes out in the pan and everything else. Was it what you expected?
It's just what I expected. I mean, it was tight, cramped in there pretty good. We got a decent seat at the table. And, the one thing I'll remember, the cheese was really, I mean, I don't say cheesy, it like just dripped and oozed.
Plentiful.
It was
You
really,
don't need extra cheese at Kay's because Kay's knows how to do cheese. You get plenty.
sure, for sure. It was a good pizza. It was a good time. So I checked that one off my list.
So now we're going to learn a few new things about you, and we're actually going to go back to talking about elections. And I thought this one was very interesting and also timely. I know the year that you ran for city council, it was your first term, right, that you were running. There was a recount, and did the results change as a result of the recount?
It was actually my second term as city council. I was running for an at-large seat. Back then, Troy had 3 at-large positions, and the top vote getter would get the council presidency. And I was encouraged by people to leave my district seat and run as a citywide representative, because as soon as I got on the city council, I took on all citywide issues, and I built a pretty good name for myself. So I figured, why not? Let's do this. And I ran for city council at large. The top vote getter becomes council president, and on election night, I came in second. So it was a win, but I didn't win the council presidency, but I didn't expect to win because I was running against a senior council member, a veteran who was expected to win. So fast forward a few days later, and we're sitting in one of my friends' headquarters, the late Bill Pasquarello, who was a district councilman in the 4th district in Troy. I was sitting in his office looking at the numbers, and they break them down by the election districts and the numbers that come in. And I noticed in one district that my opponent, Frank LaPasta, had 111 votes on the Independence Party line in one district. And I only had 12 votes. And I said, how can this be that he gets 100 more votes than I get in one district? Because we ran pretty tight together. And I showed it to Bill Pasquarello, and he said, oh my God, he's like, you're the council president. We have to get a recount. But you can't call the recount. Someone else has to call for a recanvass. So we did that. They recanvassed the machines, and I picked up enough votes to win the city council presidency. And
that recount, I think, ended up on the cover of the Troy Record as well, right?
That did, and I got that prop as well. This is what my dad cobbled this together, and with the stories on there, and it's all faded out, but there's the story of the recounts right in there. And so election, mistakes happen. Fraud can happen. This was definitely, I think, a mistake in tabulation at the time. But had I not become council president, I probably would have never ran for mayor, and I wouldn't be here talking to you.
And so it is. It's good to always watch out. All right, your next one. This originally in your original 20 Things, you talked about being a really good nut roaster, and you've now taken that to the next step. What are you doing now with that?
The nut roasting, I picked up I reluctantly bought this nut roaster. I was actually looking for a kettle corn machine because I like kettle corn, and I thought it'd be a little good side business, and I ended up finding this nut roaster, which is a really rare piece of equipment that's actually very expensive to buy new. I bought it used, fixed it up, and I started making these roasted almonds, and everybody loved them, including myself. But I'd keep giving them away to friends, and then I did a couple weddings where I'd make them, and let people give them out as favors. And then this year I had the opportunity earlier in the year to buy a vending trailer. So I bought this little food vending trailer, and I put my machine in there and fixed it up during the quarantine time. When I had some free time, I spent my early spring working on this trailer, rehabbing it, and starting a little side business called On Nuts, where I roast almonds and pecans and any other kind of nuts we can.
And where are you selling them now? I mean, there aren't a whole lot of, kind of food truck festivals right now. So where can people find the nuts?
Well, I was at a couple of the town of North Greenbush concerts. I went to Windy Hill Orchards once, which was great. And I did one or two town of Brunswick concerts, but with the quarantine and everything's kind of shut down, I'm planning on being at the Chris Pinoli event on December 5th, I want to say, I think Saturday. They're having an outdoor winter festival there, so I'm entered to be there. And I might even pop up in downtown Troy for Victorian Stroll somewhere and just pull up and open up the trailer doors. And you can also reach me on the Facebook page, and I can make them to order too.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I know you said you fixed up the truck and you also fixed up the nut roaster. Do you think you're good at fixing those things up because of your experience with fixing cars, or is it not even the same?
Oh, it's the same. It's the trailer was part auto body work, part home remodeling. I did some tile work and some trim molding and painting on the inside to freshen it up. So it's a combination of all those things. I like to stay busy and doing things like that and just fit. I mean, the nut business is a side thing. It's not the primary way of making a living, but it always could be if the need arises. It's just a fun thing to do. And I like producing something that people enjoy.
All right, now for your third thing, we're going to keep talking food. And this is interesting because I think I asked you about this one after I saw you tweet about how Dinosaur BBQ, which is in downtown Troy, right on the river, celebrated its 10th anniversary recently. And I know you were a big part of helping that come to Troy, but also, just like Joe Bruno didn't think you would make it as mayor, you said some people didn't think Dinosaur BBQ would make it, and look where we are. So tell us about that.
Well, sure. When we first attracted Dinosaur BBQ to Troy, it was really a cool story for us because what used to be there before was Fresno's, an old restaurant that had closed down. And actually, Fresno's, I had lunch there with Senator Bruno and Governor Pataki when I became council president. That's a whole other story. But Fresno's was a shuttered business, and the owner came to City Hall at the time and wanted to get some money to fix it up and convert it to another restaurant. And I said, listen, that's not going to work here. Let's get something better there. And my deputy mayor at the time just suggested, why don't you you're from Syracuse, because the owner was from Syracuse. He said, see if Dinosaur BBQ want to come here. And we just kind of said it in passing. Fast forward a few weeks, I get a call from the owner of that restaurant, Fresno's, and said, the guy from Dinosaur wants to come to Troy and meet you. So, typical us, okay, sure, whatever. The day of the meeting, I walk out my lobby to greet the person who I thought would be a representative or some, lawyer from the company, was actually the founder and owner, John Stage. And I'm like, oh my God, I have your cookbook. This is so cool. He's like, hey, so we talked about it. We hopped in the car, did a tour of Troy. I showed him all the projects that were going on, RPI's construction of the NPAC, some of the stuff going on downtown. And I, convinced him the hard pressure, this is why you got to be in Troy. And I said, John, we just had the pig out in the fall of last year, our first barbecue event, huge crowds of people. There's a market here. And he's like, well, I want to be in the Capital District because John is from Albany. Actually, his mom lived in Albany.
Oh,
and
very cool.
Fast forward, months, and they bought Fresno's. And they went through the process of, getting the approvals, and people came to the meeting. It's not going to work. It won't last 6 months. Nothing ever works in that spot on the river. And you fast forward now, 10 years later, they've been open. They suffered a big setback with Hurricane Irene when the restaurant was flooded, but they reopened right up again. And I'm a little disappointed they didn't celebrate their 10th anniversary. I tried to encourage them to do something to promote it, but that's their business. They're doing well, and every time you drive by, there's cars there from all over the Northeast, and that's bringing people to Troy. That's what we wanted to see happen. I
was going to say the parking lot is always full, and the deck, in the nice weather, they've got that great outdoor seating, and you always see that full as well. So those are always nice things to see.
Sure.
Very cool. Okay, well, thank you for that, Harry. Now, at this point in 20 Things Plus, we play a little game where I'm going to give you 3 clues to help you guess who will be featured on Monday's 20 Things You Don't Know About Me. So that means it's somebody we haven't yet written about. And I think you may be able to get it, but we'll see. All right? So here are the 3 clues. Number 1, I was shocked when my voice turned up on the HBO series on Nexium, The Vow. I had no idea they were going to use anything from our show. Number 2, we've interviewed a lot of comedians. They can often be miserable and difficult, but we've had really good luck. Among the nicest, Paul Reiser, Louis Anderson, Steve Martin, and Martin Short. And the last one is, my first 4 years in the radio business, I worked in 5 cities in 4 states, Massachusetts, New York, West Virginia, Rhode Island, and then back to New York. I never intended to stay anywhere for 36 plus years, but I'm so glad I did.
That's got to be Troy, New York's own Paul Vandenberg.
You're close, but no, I already actually, Paul was one of my early 20 things. But Paul is from Lansingburg, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, but you're very, very, very close.
Wow.
He had just announced his retirement. Think another morning show.
On television, Jim Cambridge.
No, Jim Cambridge is retiring as well. No, it's radio. One more guess.
I must not listen to any other stations.
I can see you listening to Paul Vandenberg, but Paul's a really good guy. I like Paul. So if anybody wants to take a guess, they can tweet at Times Union. They can tweet me at JustKristi, or they can comment on the Times Union's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter channels under this video. Thank you so much, Harry. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me on.